ask me, hey, what's the best skill you've learned? And a lot of times they're waiting for me to talk about some sort of bushcrafting skill, like, oh, here's how to make a fire and da da da. And I'm good at those things, but honestly, coach, the the biggest skill that I learned out there was how to identify and hear my ego versus my higher self.
Ooh.
Yeah, you gotta be able to hear the way they sound, and
What's happening, y'all? This is Mike D with Black Fathers Now, where we're bringing the village to the brothers. Every couple of weeks, you can look forward to a quick inspirational message or a thought-provoking guest with knowledge and wisdom, all geared towards helping you be the best father that you can be. We're bringing the village to you. Now it's your turn to do something with what you learned. All right, y'all. Let's go. What's going on, fellas? This is Coach Mike D, Mr. Double Down on You, your favorite personal development coach, with another episode of Black Fathers Now. Now, dig this. We have an episode, and we really have a brother that brings a unique perspective to the table that we, especially in the Black community, don't always talk about, but we need to talk about a little bit more. And the brother that I have is none other than Jonathan Weston. Now, this brother is a father. He's a business builder, but he's passionate about the outdoors, like conservation, hunting, camping, all of that. And so much so, he created this thing called Wonderland Campground in Georgia. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. But the real deal is we're going to talk about the twists and turns and the journey that led him to where he is today. So fellas, ladies tuning in too, because y'all like to hear what we're talking about, let's welcome my man, Jonathan Weston. What's up, brother?
what's up, brother? Thank you for having me on, Mike. I really appreciate you and what you're doing out here.
Man, look. I'm gonna tell you, this is so interesting. You know, I came across somebody had posted something about going camping, and they were like, "We need to go to this brother's campsite and go camping because it's a Black-owned campsite." And I was like, "Hold on, pause." So I had to look. And a little background, you know, I'm an Eagle Scout. Both of my
Yeah.
brothers are Eagle Scouts. My
Okay.
uncle's an Eagle Scout. I'm
Okay.
from Augusta, Georgia, and we were part of this troop called Troop 504, which was an
Okay.
all-Black troop, which
Okay.
I think at one point it had like the highest number of Black Eagles promoted. And I mean, it was
Okay.
so growing up, we were in that. Now,
Okay.
again, Boy Scouting has changed a little bit and everything over the years. And so my son is not in it right now, but
Right.
that was a huge component of us. Arrow of Light as a Cub Scout and Eagle Scout. I mean, it was interesting. So when I saw this, I was just like, we got to chop it up, man.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. Man, I'll tell you, it's so funny. When I was a kid, I would be outside all the time.
mhm,
And I remember there was this, you go down the street, and in many of our neighborhoods, I kind of lived in like in a suburban area, but there was woods all around us, right? Because the sprawl hadn't fully taken hold of the states yet. And I was in Columbia, South Carolina, and there was this patch of woods on the way to my aunt's house. And so we would be able to, I mean, by standards today, I don't think I would let my children take that trip. But
yeah.
back then it was like maybe a 2 mile trip on the bicycle. And
Yes.
so we had to cut through the woods. And I remember feeling the exhilaration of just those dark woods and the unknown nature of the woods, and how we never went in the woods,
Mm.
right? I never explored it, but it was always this this place where it was like, what is this unknown, these unknown trees with all these, I didn't know what was out there in these woods. So I was always intrigued by, what's out there,
Mm.
what's out there. And as I became older, I got, of course, like many of us, we would enjoy parks and we'd enjoy, doing things like that. But I was overly consumed with work. I
Mm.
was working 60, 70 hours a week. And maybe if I could break away, I'd take the kids to the park on the weekend and all that good stuff. And then, my life started to change. I went through a divorce, and my all my I still had my children, and so, but my definitions of who I was largely tied to my role as a husband and father. And
Mm.
so I had to figure out, who I was going to be in this second act of my life, or what I kind of called the second act of my life, because my life to that point had been just built on the thought of building the right concept of the father that I wanted to be, fulfilling the sins of my father, all the things that you kind of have as you're growing up trying to be a man, and as you define your masculinity. And it was all tied to being a husband, being a father, being a provider, being a protector. And so, and those roles then were challenged after, a divorce and custody disputes and all the other things that we go through as men in life. And so I had to go out and figure out some things. And I had to, of course, you can't just abandon out here. So you had to manage all the things that we're actually having in real time. Then you had to rationalize, how is it that you want to show up? What do you want your story to look like? And then how do you want to manage the people and players that you have still? And so I had to go out into the woods. That was the quiet space for me. I found my quiet space in a hunting stand at about, I don't know, 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. It was a big white moon, and I had a rifle in my hand, and I was just overlooking about 500 acres or so of land, and I felt so at home. It was cold, but I felt very at peace. I didn't feel like I was in danger, and I could think. And I wasn't thinking about hunting so much as I was just thinking about everything. And I could remember breathing in the cold air and watching it come out of my face against the moonlight. And I said, man, I like this a lot, and I need this thought, and I need this time. And I would be hunting all the time. People are like, oh man, you must love hunting. And it was okay, but it was less about, it was more about watching the animals and understanding them as an apex predator. That's kind of one of the things that we lose as people that go to the grocery store all the time. We lose that instinct of looking at animals and that you wish to harvest, and understanding them in a way that you can get in front of them and bet their life on what they're going to do next.
Ooh.
And in that time, I watched bears, I watched turkeys, I watched all kinds of predator animals, I watched lots and lots of deer, and I watched them, live and grow, and I ate them at times as I was a part of that ecosystem too. But I respected the whole thing and my place in it. And I began to understand the world around me in a different way. And that's what the outdoors did for me. That's what it kind of reignited in me, was the ability to kind of figure out how I'm going to be in this world, who I'm going to be in this world. And then I started learning about how to be good at it, right? How to be good at it. And so, yeah, that's how my journey started. It was really it got really focused in my mid 30s. That's when I began this whole thing.
Brother, I'm gonna tell you, it's so interesting. As you were talking, the first thing that stood out was you talked about identity, right? And I think one of the core challenges, especially for Black men, but for all of us, across the board, is reconciling with this identity, right? It's, a lot of us tie our identity into our vocation, or we tie our identity into our structure, our family structure. Some of us tie our identity into socioeconomic status, or celebrity, or the blue check, or the this or the that. Yeah. And a lot of us tie our identity into what people think of us. And so therefore we feel the need to live up to that character. But as we evolve in life, as we grow through this journey, things are going to change, right? Who I am today is not who I was 5 years ago, and it's probably not who I'm going to be 5 years from now. There's this constant evolution of who I am from a growth and development perspective. And I think some of us struggle with identity because we try to lock into something and hold on to that one thing, only to understand that one thing is not constant. That one thing is going to change. And so you mentioned identity, but then you also mentioned the concept of management of the internal and the external, right? So it's like you got this internal, which is the identity. Who am I? I'm looking in the mirror. I'm seeing something different. But in the meantime, because you're a grown ass man, you still got to manage all the external forces too, right?
Mhm.
So it's like, how do you come to grips with managing both?
Yeah.
And for you, that's where going into nature opened up this window. And it wasn't the hunting, it wasn't the action, it was what the action provided you. And it provided this bridge of peace between the external and the internal, which is
Mhm.
interesting because then it allowed you to have a connection, but then it also allowed you to respect the process. And it's just interesting, like that then opened up this opportunity. It's like once you get survival on in check, then you can thrive, right?
Mhm.
So then it was about, how do I get good at this? And
Mhm.
so that's when you become an expert and you start to look at, okay, how can I double down on this scenario? And it was just powerful to hear you articulate that process, at this stage of the game. And I want brothers to pay attention. He mentioned this happened in his mid 30s. This
Mhm.
was not something that happened at 16, at 13, at 14. This is something, and there will be a constant evolution. This thing will continuously evolve and grow and manifest into something else, but we have to open ourselves up to that. And
Mhm.
so that to me is a nice segue to actually take it back. And before we really jump into the nuts and bolts of your story, kind of give some shout outs, because, you were talking about your personal journey, right? The
Mhm.
things that you were going through yourself, but there are also individuals, I think, along the way that were inspirational, that planted seeds, in your life, so to speak, that have allowed you to start or even be open to going down this journey. Give some shout outs real quick to those individuals, and then let's jump back into your journey, brother.
Yeah. You know, of course, my children inspire me.
Mm,
I have four children, and a goddaughter.
mhm,
And my boy, I have twins, so my boys teach me um, how to how to embrace the love of new information. That's what I was always a guy who liked it anyway. But my oldest son really, that's what he's into. He's just really a sponge. He loves to excel at really understanding things deeply. And one of my twins, he teaches me a lot about gentle masculinity.
mm,
He was, and I saw him, and as I was talking to you earlier about, how you watch animals, you watch turkeys, and you watch deer, and you watch all kinds of animals, and I started watching him in that same kind of way, like understanding his behavior, the way he moves, the way he thinks, all the children, and you start depersonalizing it and just understanding as creatures, how do they move. And he taught me gentle masculinity. He taught me the thoughts of gentle masculinity and how I want to make that this next version of myself, that right, and that kind of leads me to a point I'll make in a second, but that was an important piece of it. And then my other sons taught me the idea of being more social, understanding that you can go and do something, but there's a responsibility you have, that we have, certain of us, to helping other people and being more social with what your assets are, your talents are, you know. And then my daughter, she taught me really love,
mm,
and she taught me really love. And that's my youngest daughter, Kennedy. She taught me love, and in a way that I didn't really know it before, I don't think. And then my goddaughter, she taught me forgiveness.
mm.
She taught me forgiveness, and I learned it from her because I see where there's so many things that she must forgive, and how I must forgive, and the way you must forgive for us to let go.
Mm,
And so, but people ask me about the ways of survivability a lot, and we could talk about it in a second, the 5 C's of survivability, and I talk about them a lot. But they ask me, hey, what's the best skill you've learned? And a lot of times they're waiting for me to talk about some sort of bushcrafting skill, like, oh, here's how to make a fire, and da da da. And I'm good at those things, but honestly, my coach, the the biggest skill that I learned out there was how to identify and hear my ego versus my higher self.
ooh,
Yeah, you gotta be able to hear the way they sound, and the two very intelligent beings that are voices in your head that are just as smart as you.
Mhm.
Okay, they're they're just as smart as you, and they can. And your ego is very logical. It's very logical, but what is it really? It's intentions. The ego. You have to be able to listen to it so you can hear when it's saying something to you, and you may not want to listen to your ego. Your ego largely is destructive to you.
Mm.
Um, it's your higher self that's the calm and rational and repetitive, softer voice in your head that's probably right.
Mm.
It doesn't feel right all the time because it makes you uncomfortable, and what is uncomfortable is your ego, because your ego likes to do two things. One, it likes to live in the past,
Mhm.
okay, holding on to things that used to
Mhm.
be,
Mhm.
or it likes to talk about what the future is going to hold and all the things that you're doing wrong that's going to mess up your future and your future, and people are going to offend you today and you're going to feel it tomorrow, and all the other things that the future is going to hold for you that's painful because its fuel tank is pain body. Okay, and so that ego needs that fuel tank to be high, and it can't be present, right? Because me and you right here,
That's
right
right.
now. There's nothing else going on. There's nothing else happening in reality.
That's
I mean,
right.
there's things happening concurrently, of
Mhm.
course, that we're managing. We got
Mhm.
lots of things, but right now, you and me are present,
Yes.
and our higher selves are the ones that should be communicating. But we're worried about the future, or we're still filling up the gas tank of the past. We can't stay present.
No.
We can't stay present, and that is the pain body itself. That is the pain body. That's how the fuel tank stays high for the ego,
Mm.
and that's what I was thinking about a lot, and I kind of came to these conclusions and thoughts and belief systems first when I started being able to just kind of get quiet, get out of
Yes.
the cities and get quiet. And that's
Yes.
when I was able to hear the difference. All right. And I spent a lot of time by fire by myself just because I had to get through who am I right now, and who do I expect you to want me to be?
Mm.
Right. And I had to kind of decouple those things so that I could just kind of let that be, let you have your perceptions, and that's fine. But I had to just come and just be authentically who I am,
Yes.
and not in a toxic or a way that's destructive to who you are, but just allow me to be able to do this for a long time and not
Yes.
be exhausted because I'm acting all day. And
Authenticity. Yes.
yeah, and I had to kind of get to that place where I could then have a level space where then I could learn survivability,
Mhm.
the art and act of doing the bushcrafting skills. But then it became even more than that. But we can kind of get back into that later.
Mhm.
But yeah, that's the things.
Dude, I'm gonna tell you, you talked about the ego and the higher self, and one of the things that you also highlighted was the importance of being present, right?
Mhm.
Because everything that you mentioned with regard to the inspiration of your kids, your four children, came from your observations, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
You being present enough to observe and really just be in tune with what was going on in the moment. And literally, that's one of the things that challenges a lot of people, is because of the distractions we
Mhm.
had, we lose the ability to be present in the moment, right?
Mhm.
That's why if you think about like athletes, a lot of athletes perform at very high levels because they can't dribble down the court and send a text at the same time, or they can't be talking to somebody else over here while they're dribbling. They have to be solely focused on dribbling down the court and scoring. That's
Yeah.
what they do. They're
Right.
hyper focused. The fan can be texting, talking to the guy, drinking, doing their thing, whatever, and they can be doing 1,000 different things. But the thing that's interesting about that, being present in the moment, and this is why once you understand how to quiet the noise down and you submit to the moment of being present there, you literally can start doing things that you never thought were imaginable. And you can solely do that for the simple fact that your attention is not divided. See,
Coach.
dude, I'm gonna tell you. Let me tell you.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna throw
Yeah.
something here
Yeah.
because you only have 100% of your attention.
That's
See, and
it.
I call this the challenge of smart people. See, the
Mhm.
challenge of smart people is that a lot of times our 30% is good enough to be better than most other people's 80 or 90%. So because I know that, I can be doing this, sending an email, got a conference call going on over here, doing this, and I'm giving everybody 20 or 30%, right? Which the challenge is that may be enough for you to still be top tier. But the reality is, have you ever tried to commit your full self to that one thing? And you will blow somebody's mind. And I'll tell you this, and then I'll throw and toss it back to you. Dr. Miles Monroe had a quote that I listened to one of his sermons recently. He said, the original truth about you will shock you and amaze everybody else. And so to me, when I hear that, and it literally hit me and it like sent chills up my spine, because to me, that is being completely obedient and present to the moment and being open and just fully committed to that. And you literally put all that you have there. It will shock you. And you're just like, dude, I never knew I was capable of this. And everybody else is like, where did this brother come from? And it's like, yeah, because I'm giving my whole self there. They're only used to seeing 15, 20%. So yeah, go ahead. I'm tossing it back to you, brother. We can go.
Well, Coach, think about it like this. We were raised, and I'm today's my birthday.
Happy birthday, brother.
I turned 42 today. And so
I turned 42 in November. We're aligned on a lot. Columbia, South Carolina. My mom was a dean of the School of Nursing at USC Aiken. I'm from Augusta, Georgia. We used to go to Riverbank Zoo in South Carolina.
Oh, Riverbank. I used to love Riverbank.
That's what I'm saying. You're 42. I'm 42. I'm follically challenged. If you look at the video, brother. Dude, this is interesting. But keep on.
But we were raised in a time period where multitasking and efficiency was praised, right? Multitasking and efficiency was praised. And then we built technology for that. We built accelerators to help us do that. We built this whole empire of infrastructure to make us be able to do 15 different things at one time efficiently. And then we wonder why all our kids, quote unquote, have ADD.
Ooh, come on.
Okay, they don't. They don't. They're just children growing up with all this technology meant for hyper efficient adults that know how to say, oh, well, I'm gonna go on vacation so we can turn it off. But then we just decided not to do that because we want to be able to have more and have more and have more. But if you think about it like this, the challenge of our time, and what I try to teach my children, and I teach the people that I work for and people that work for me, is to unitask. Right? Unitask.
I love it.
Can you do one thing? Like that's the bigger challenge. Finish one thing. Right? Because I know that you can manage 15 different things. Do one thing, and let me see. Watch how you do more. Watch how you do more, and whatever you're doing is better.
Can I throw? I'm gonna throw something. Yeah. Because you're in conservation and you're in camping and all.
Yeah.
So efficiency minimizes friction. Okay. And so I believe in certain instances, I do see the value of having efficiency, right? But for me, the things that matter, I want so much friction that we start a fire. And going back to the whole concept of camping, have you ever tried, or are you able, without a match or a lighter, can you start a fire without friction?
You can start a fire with a magnifying lens and some leaves and things like that, but you need some sort of heat source, i.e., you need the sun to be out.
There you go.
So you will not start
so you need heat, right? And you can cause heat by friction, right? And so when people talk about, you think about someone getting fired up about something. How can somebody be fired up about something if there's no friction?
Well, what you're describing are the 5 C's of survivability and their modern application. Okay, so the 5 C's of survivability in the primitive terms are cutlery, combustion, cordage, combustion, cordage, cutlery, containers, and did I say covering already?
No, you haven't said covering.
Okay, no, so I'll start with what you mentioned was combustion. Okay, combustion in the woods is your ability to create light and heat with fire, and of course you do need to be able to build a fire slowly, and that's how you build a fire. But what you're describing is the modern application of combustion. What we learned in the woods and on our primitive states about how to start a fire, we apply that to the way we live today. We just have forgotten these things. Okay, we've forgotten why we do the things we do and why they work, right? Combustion out here is your ability to have a small idea and then get a piece of fuel, a piece of tinder, and you make one person understand it. Then two people, then three, then four. And then by the time you and I see it, oh wow, that's a great idea. That Wonderland idea took years of little people coming out, one person coming out, two people coming out, three people, before you see the big logs of big fire. I can create a big fire now when I with Wonderland, right? Now I can franchise Wonderlands. Now I'm in talks with South African companies about how we're going to bring stuff to Wonderland. And that didn't start with the thing. It was one little piece of, it was one leaf, then two leaves, then three sticks, and five sticks, then a small log, and more logs, and big logs. Yes. And that's how combustion works out here. We learned it over there. Cutlery, okay, is a knife in the woods, right? It's what you need to kind of manipulate the environment outside of your own body, right? Your own physical body. Out here, cutlery is your ability to solve problems. Okay, we don't necessarily need a knife and gun out here to solve most of our problems. We can do it with a cleverly worded email, right? Or understanding how to communicate with someone. That is the way that the modern day cutlery works. That's how you cut through the noise by being able to get through to places. We say these words, we don't quite tie them back anymore. We've forgotten, right? Coverage in the woods is your clothes, it's your tent, it's all those things that you need to protect your body from the elements and your core temperature, keeping you warm and safe. Okay. Out here, coverage is your network. It's the people you know. That's why on May 14th, we're having the Wonderland founders networking event, meaning if you have businesses, you have brands that you're representing, wanting to grow, come talk to other brand leaders. This is a men's only event where we are just talking about how we're going to do business together, how we're going to build trust amongst one another so that we can continue to grow our brands, do business together, do good business together, solve the problems together, and continue to grow. Okay, we have the opportunity to do that here. That's coverage. Because if I got a problem, you got a problem. If I know you and you know me, I got one more person that can help me with my problem. Right? Because now I know you, I can trust him. Like, hey, you know what? I know a guy who might know something about that. I'm gonna call Coach. I want to see what Coach has to say about it. Or Coach might know somebody.
That's right.
That's your network. That's and how many of us don't value that? Don't really invest in our networks like it's a life skill. We think it's something for our business or makes no. It's a life skill. That goes into the fourth element of survivability, and that is cordage. In the woods, we use cords to keep our tents up. We use cords to do all kinds of things, tie bear bags in trees and all kinds of things. But cordage is your ability to keep your network together. Okay, and that is your ability to communicate and connect with another human being. And so, if you don't develop the skill to understand, hey, it's not all about me. I can't come to every conversation just talk about I. I got to be able to understand what this man across from me is doing. I got to understand what is happening in his life. I got to understand how he's thinking. I got to understand what he and I have in common and where we disagree. And it's okay, both sides, because I need to know where our boundaries are together, right? That's a really important part of cordage, because you don't have to agree with everybody in your network.
No, not at all.
It don't matter. Because what happens is, you know what, we do agree on these three things, and we can exploit those three things for our mutual benefit.
There you go.
And that's good.
Yes.
And that's cordage. That's how you keep us together. And lastly is containers. Okay? Containers is the last C of survivability. And in containers, we find the concept of in the forest of keeping food for tomorrow, keeping things you need for future, first aid kits, sterile things, whatever you need for the future. Out here, it's the same thing. It includes your bank account, okay? It includes the secrets of your network, right? You do not have friends that you don't know secrets about.
That's right.
You don't like, they're not your friend. If you don't know anything about them,
not your friend. That's right.
they're not your friend.
That's right.
Okay. And so as men, we successful men know and learn that you don't have to announce everybody that you know all their business. It's just their business. It's out. We should be able to have a confidential conversation and go about our day and never speak of it again until it's a benefit for us to speak on something. That's containment. If we are men, we also need to understand what must we say no to today so that we can say yes tomorrow. And what are we saying yes to today that we will have to say no to tomorrow, because there aren't infinite supply.
That's right.
As children, we believe there's infinite supply. There is resources are finite, and you have yours in this container, and that's what you have. There's nobody else that's going to owe you anything to put in your container. It's your job to put something in your container. Out here, it's called your bank account. It's called your goodwill that you have with your network. It's called every other item underneath that. But that is your container. And so these things we've forgotten, right? Because we've been in these cities and we've over civilized ourselves to the extent where we don't understand why we did the things we did. Okay. And so, and by and large, when I host couples and people and things like that out at Wonderland, there's a consistent thing that I always hear, especially amongst city folks that come with their partners. I hear women say this constantly. I've never been so happy to be with my partner. I never respected him some version of this is the highest form of respect that she's probably ever had for this man who works his behind off all the time. But because she's able to see him go and pick up sticks and manage a fire, and she's doing her part and going and collecting small sticks, and she knows collecting sticks is hard because she had to go find them, and he's bringing over big logs so they can have a fire throughout the night, and he's putting up a tent to make sure it's steady, and she's doing her part, and she's blowing up the mattresses, and everybody's got their thing to do, and it reframes what we call need, right? Because out there, it don't matter what your W-2 looks like. Okay, it does not matter, because it's you, the air, and the elements and the animals that are unknown around you. And if y'all are working together, there's two of you there, and that's better than just one of you there. Okay, and so that is what I find when I host people, is that when they start playing, most people don't quite understand or run down the concepts of survivability like me. But they have to play with them when they're out there, and they respect them. And as they do that, they start to respect each other more. And that's what Wonderland is about. It's an invitation for you all and for me to come back and find the people we used to be, right? The people we used to be, so we can understand who we are today. Because we're doing some things the same way and doing some things that are just wrong. Right? Because we don't remember why we did them the other way. So that's where it is for me, bro.
Brother, I'm gonna tell you, like, I mean, when you talk about going back, there's a term Sankofa, which means you go back to learn. Like we must go back to learn where we are today. Like it's an African proverb, Sankofa, right? Just look at, I mean, it's so interesting that you just mentioned that. But then the 5 C's of survivability, through the lens of camping, through the lens of the outdoors, how they are applicable to life. And you mentioned, just the combustion, the building blocks, right? The cutlery is solving problems. Courage is your network. The cordage is the ability to, to keep your network together, right? And then the containers, I equated that to wisdom and trust, right?
Yes.
And I'm gonna throw something at you when you mentioned the the coverage and with regard to network, and you hear my dog scratching on the door out there. It's crazy. When you mentioned the concept of network, I had a brother a couple of years ago that I interviewed. He's out of Canada. His name is Dr. Vibe. And I was using the word network, and he had me actually reframe it to community. And he said, the thing about network that's different from community, your network is something you tap into when you need it. Your community is something that you feel vested in. And I was just like, because, it's like when you're part of a community, it's like you are invested in that thing. You feel like a responsibility to it. Whereas your network is just something you tap into. Like I got, it's like your Rolodex. Oh, I know Jonathan. I can text Jonathan if I got a question about something, but there's no community there. It's not, I don't feel vested with regard to, making sure, ensuring that this person becomes their best self. Right. And so he had me, it blew me, blew my mind in a way. It's like, I never thought about it that way, but it made so much sense. So I personally try to use, I know people always say your network is your net worth and all of that. I like to use community because it makes sense.
Brother, give me better information, I make better decisions.
That's
And that was good information for me. I completely agree with you on the difference between network and community. And I completely agree with the usage of that, because networks don't, the network doesn't own anything. You're not together. You are mutually beneficial people on in an ecosystem. But a community is people that you decide to say, hey, we're going to watch the boundary together.
That's right. We're together.
We're going to watch the boundary.
And I'm invested in this. Like, yes. I'm invested in this community.
Yes.
Even for people who don't have kids, you still pay, taxes, which, support the schools, even though you don't have kids to go to the schools, right? Yep. It's like, we're invested in this community. You pick up the trash walking down the street, you're invested in this community. It's not, some who aren't, just like, I just drive by and just keep it moving. That's not mine. But someone who's invested in the community is like, no, that's some trash, let me pick it up. Or you see your neighbor's trash can on the ground, you stop your car, get out and pick it up for them, just because you're just vested in the community. You want the community to thrive. And in your mind, subconsciously, you believe that happens for you as well. You go out of town and forget to take your trash can in, and all of a sudden your trash can is behind the house because one of your neighbors saw and know that you're out of town. They rolled your trash can back without asking. They just part of the community.
Yeah.
Right? With the kids, we got 8 and 10-year-old. They outside playing. I don't worry about it because I know this neighbor and that neighbor got their eyes out. They sitting there. Or if they're down at our house, the other neighbor's kids, they're my kids that they're in the yard. I got them, right? It's community. So
I remember my grandparents' neighborhood in Columbia, South Carolina, is a little downtown neighborhood, and it's called Standish Acres is what it was the name of it when I was, still the name of it. I remember I knew all her neighbors.
Yeah.
They all had bought their little $17,000 homes back in the 50s, and they all bought their little, and then they'd expanded them, and the Tucker's doing to this and this and that and that, and these people, and they all like, oh, we all got jobs at the school and this and that, and they just did their whole blue collar Black life, and it wasn't even just called blue collar. It was just their Black experience together.
Yes, together.
Together, and it didn't matter whether you were blue collar or white collar or whatever, because we just had to get things done. That the collars didn't even matter.
It didn't.
It did because he's a postman, I'm a principal, but we need to help each other because you're a notary and I'm a painter. Let me get your all the things. Yeah. We did it together. It wasn't like, oh, we're gonna bring some people in to do. No, we do all the things in our neighborhood.
And going back again, thinking of Sankofa and going back, there's an African proverb: it takes a village to raise a child, or it takes a whole village to raise a child. Again, when we stop and we look at the root of the things that are flowing through us, it's there and it's been there if we're willing to look back. And so that's why I think what's so important about what you're doing with Wonderland, this conservation, connecting with nature, but then it's also connecting the dots to where people are today, right? I mean, everything that you mentioned, it was so interesting, the 5 C's of survivability. To me, everything that you mentioned is an order higher than surviving. That's thriving, because everything that you mentioned, when you related it to everyday life today, all involve communication and connection, right? The building blocks, like you mentioned, spreading an idea, going from one little bit to this, and all of a sudden now you got logs, or solving problems. You're connecting the dots. Your network, or now we're going to say community, or your village, that's the connection of people. The ability to keep them together, to keep that community together, being the glue, right? It's kind of like Big Mama was the glue to the family, right? That is connection. And then finally, wisdom and trust. When you have friends, again, you don't have friends if you don't have some secrets, right? But then the other part to it is, it's not like you mentioned, it's the trust factor of, I don't put people's business on Front Street. But then the other part to it is, I'd even take it an order farther than that. When you are building your community, and some of your community maybe has some prominent individuals in the mix, you're not even revealing to the world that you even know this person. Right. So it's one of those things where, because when you talk to folks, you'd be amazed who's advising who behind the scenes that nobody ever knows about, who's having meetings with so-and-so that nobody knows about, who's on vacation with so-and-so, and there's no paparazzi there, so nobody knows about it. Right. But that goes to that container thing that you're talking about.
And containers also, as you think about the real deep use case of containers in a community setting, right? It's you and I don't need to know the same things.
Come on.
But if you study one thing and I study another thing, now we know two things because we're in a community.
Come on.
Right. And so if Jonathan knows how to start fires and Coach knows how to direct water, we don't need to compete about who's doing fires.
Nope.
And we don't need to compete about water, but our tribe has water and fire.
Dude, check this out. So economics term, comparative advantage. Do what you do most efficiently and trade for the other goods. Right? I mean, exactly. It's just,
we learned this in the forest. Like, so Coach, so I do, this is Wonderland and all the things. These are my personal journey gone set on fire. Yes, right? But I have a whole, world of things that I do. I mean, I build technology companies of the future. That's kind of what I do.
Pause. So we have a brother that's been talking connection to nature and how we need to disconnect, and how he found his center and connected the internal and the external and got the ability to observe on a very deep level from nature. Yeah. But then you build technology.
Yeah, I build. So I work for a very large technology company, and I am I'm called a business builder for that technology company, and I go and find founders that have really good ideas, and I help them accelerate those ideas and get them to market, and help them build their companies, and help them get to their go-to-market strategies, and kind of work with and partner with our brand to make their brand bigger, and so they can start their fire faster. Yes. And that's what I do for a living. And so, but I promise you, there's not one partnership that I make that I don't think about over the fire, and I don't think about the future, their idea of how it really works. And so so Wonderland, while it seems primitive, is a futuristic company as well. Yes. And the technology is the absence of technology. Right? That is what Wonderland is. It's just the absence of the technology that we have. It's like imagine when you need to have some sort of like resistance band, right? You have to have a resistance band today because you're not actually going through that much, that you're not actually putting that much pressure on your limbs, right? Imagine that you need that resistance band. And so Wonderland becomes that resistance band because our life has become too easy because we've used these things, we've overused these, and we've overused our technology. So we've atrophied muscles. Yes. And so then Wonderland allows you to kind of exercise those muscles again, so you can stay in mental shape, so you can understand the advantages of the technology. Yes. Versus losing yourself to the technology, right? Because if you only know how to go through revolving doors, you don't understand how to push open a door. You might eventually become too weak to even open a door for yourself.
Ooh, hold on. If you don't use it, you lose it. That's there, and you just, dude. Keep on.
Yeah, and so that's what it is. So people are always thinking, oh, you know what you could do out here? Within 5 seconds of anybody getting to Wonderland, oh, you know what you can do? They want us to make it easier. That's their instinct is to think, hey, let's make it Buckhead. Let's make this Buckhead. It's so crazy. But that's not why you go to the gym. You don't go to the gym to make it easy. You go to the gym to build your muscle and to stay strong. You know,
Hold on. You don't go to make it easy. You go to stay strong.
You go to stay strong.
And it's interesting how this connection, this relaxing, this removing of all these distractions allows you to become strong. And we're using a metaphor here. So we're not necessarily just talking about physical strength, right? Because you got spiritual strength, mental strength, emotional strength. You have all of these different things, right? But the biggest thing is coming back and really coming to grips with your identity. And you said something earlier about spending time by yourself. I would tweak it just a little bit. You spent time with yourself. Right? Because there's a difference. Being by yourself and being with yourself are two different things. If you're spending time with your kids, you're paying attention to your kids. Like you mentioned, you're in observation mode. You're noticing things. You're in the moment. If you're just there, then you're just there. Right? You know what I mean? You might not notice stuff. You're like, oh yeah, baby, keep doing what you're doing over there. Oh yeah, that's nice. You're just, by happenstance, you're just letting stuff happen. But you were spending time with yourself. And this whole disconnection from the distractions. So it's not even necessarily disconnection from technology and innovation, it's disconnection from the distractions so that you can then really open up. And it goes back to this thing of attention, because with the distractions, we're never given the ability to bring 100% of who we are to any given moment. So we have to have moments of doggone wonderland in our life. Because, brother, tell us, so specifically, Wonderland is a location. Give me the details about Wonderland itself.
Okay. So Wonderland is in North Georgia. Okay. From Atlanta, you go straight up I-75 to exit 350. You'll come upon a town called Rising Fawn, which is right below the Tennessee line.
Okay.
And then you go through Rising Fawn, you go up to Lookout Mountain. And Lookout Mountain was one of my great man MLK mentioned Lookout Mountain and Stone Mountain.
That's right. Right.
And now one of his frat brothers has the largest Black-owned campground in the South, and on Lookout Mountain, and that's me. And
one pause there. Okay, you're afforded one mistake in life. You said his frat brother. So that yeah. See, 1911 was a great year, especially November the 17th. 1911 was just an amazing moment. And yeah. But I assume that you're referring
was not as cold as 1906 though, my friend. It was not as cold as 1906. It was, we had a fire set up for you then. It was okay. We all need each other. There was a fire going for you.
Look, you all right with me, man.
It was frozen when we found it.
I'll let you slide today.
It was frozen when we found it, my friend.
So that's why you had to make all them dang fires. Yeah.
You had to. It was ice cold out there. It was ice cold.
I love it.
But yeah, so you get to Wonderland. Wonderland is 72 acres. It's completely primitive. Everything you see there was hand cut. There was me or some men that I had with me and some chainsaws, and we pushed through land.
Wow.
And we pushed through land. When you get there, we one of the big parts of Wonderland is it's got trails connected to Cloudland Canyon, which is a major, beautiful state park with beautiful waterfalls and all that good stuff. And so, you find it there, and that you can hike there. It takes you about an hour to hike there to Cloudland, and it's just a good day. It's a very good day, and people enjoy it. They like to camp out at Wonderland because we don't have it's not super expensive, and we do allow them to, it's like going to the primitive gym of life. Yeah. And but you get to go have that full experience over at Cloudland and experiencing a lot of beautiful everything. And we have beautiful land. It's an oak forest, so it's 72 acres of basically uncut oak forest, and it's beautiful animal life out there. You'll see some deer probably. It's just a good time.
So question, okay, so for the folks who are not the super rustic campers and all of that, I mean, is it a place where you have to bring your own tents and toilets, or is it a place where there cabins and stuff? And I mean, so give me the
For those people, I wrote this book. It's on Amazon. Okay.
Okay.
It's called Camping is for Everyone.
Okay.
Okay. It came out last month. It's
Okay.
called Camping is for Everyone. Go buy yourself a copy. It
And
is.
that's on Amazon right now?
It's on Amazon. It's
Okay.
been doing really well on Amazon. People seem to like the message it has in there. This is not about my life. This is just about camping.
Okay.
This is and it's got everything, all the things you need to know about how to camp. It
Okay.
even has when you get there, how to get the kids there, what to do with your dog. It's got some affirmations in there. It's got recipes of what to cook when you get there.
Okay.
It's got some stories that you can tell your kids around the fire. You can tell your friends around the fire. It's a good book for people that want to camp. But when you get to Wonderland specifically, I usually, well, depending on where you camp, I have 15 sites that I'm going to be setting up. 6 will be online this year. But it'll depend on where you go. I have tents already set up.
Okay.
And so I have firing there, tent already there, water already down there. Okay. We have, by the time this airs, we'll have porta potties still out there. By the end of the summer, we'll have bathrooms and showers.
Oh, awesome.
Okay. So I'm tapping water and so I've been building, man. I go out there and I build it, and it's not built fast, and it's not anything that we build out there is really thought through deeply. It's like, must we have this? Mm-hmm. And I think that, one of the things that I don't want to, the battle that I think I'm okay losing is the battle of the bathrooms. Yes. Right. Yes. I'm gonna just let people have the bathroom they wish to have. Okay. So that'll make all our lives a little bit more.
I ain't gonna lie. See, that's I'm full transparency. My wife has never been camping before, right? And and so that's her big thing. She's just like, all right, now look, I'm really not keen on pooping in the hole or having to go and dig a latrine and all this type of stuff.
Listen, I'm a man of the woods, and I've learned to appreciate it. I spent over 100 nights in the forest, though. Okay. Like that's me. Okay, I'm not everybody. Everybody's not gonna be my story, right? There you go. I'm gonna let you just come and visit, and when you come and visit, you can have a couple of your creature comforts. Yes. And I think that in those little creature comforts, I think everybody will be a lot more comfortable, and so we'll be able to more peacefully enjoy the outdoors, because we are still who we are. We grew up in cities, and we still need to kind of, we're not gonna be able to shake all that off in one weekend.
There you go.
But I do want everybody to have a good weekend, and so I will be putting in some bathrooms and showers by the end of the summer.
Oh man, I can't wait. So we literally, mark my word, we are going to, at some point in the future, not in the not so distant future, we're going to come and do some Wonderland, because I want to bring the family down there and hang out with my man and really just kick it and bring the kids and wifey. Now, especially once you get the bathroom and shower, I can sell it. Okay, I can't.
Listen, I'm trying to help you sell it.
Yes, I can't quite sell it right now. She's gonna be like, yeah, we can go and walk around, do a hike, but then there's probably a hotel about 30 minutes down the road.
Listen, day camping's a thing. Uh-huh. Day camping is a thing. I don't shame any version of camping. Uh-huh. You can be glamping, RVing, day camping, go for a hike, or you can do some primitive camping. It does not, to me, as long as you're outside, you are, so even Wonderland, I got Wonderland. One of the major factors in my decision on what property to get was, does it have cell phone coverage throughout? Yeah. Because I'm not going to be able to, because in the middle of the forest of Wonderland, you could go live on Instagram. That's what's up. And that's just real. Because there's all kinds of thoughts about Black folks and the outdoors and all that kind of good stuff. And I want them to rest assured that if anything else happens, your cell phone still works.
That's what I said. We're not gonna be the horror movie, and
like I don't even want that thought to be in your setup. And this is people's security blanket. People need their phone,
their cell phone,
their cell phone, and people will I enjoy having mine out there too. But it's hard to find me when I'm in Wonderland. It's really difficult to find me because it's talking to me. Yeah. It's talking to me for a while. We have a relationship. And so
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing things out there. And so people are like, oh, yeah, we've been trying to call you. Oh, I'm sorry. My phone was in the truck or wherever it was. Because that's not like I don't necessarily need my phone anymore. Probably should take it more often than I do, but I
Uh-huh.
don't.
So one more question. So with regard to like so is it just camping, or can you do things like hunting and fishing and shooting and all other things? Are all those things available there?
No, I don't want that there.
Got you.
Um,
Okay.
I had so before Wonderland there was the American Oba Hunting Club, and
Okay.
that is in South Georgia, and
Okay.
that I have 250 acres in South Georgia that is used for hunting and all those type of
So
things.
you have that as well?
I have that as well. Yeah.
Okay.
So that is for hunting, and I have members and all that kind of good stuff that kind of
Okay.
do that thing. That's cool,
Okay.
right? That's a part of life,
Yes.
and and that area of harvesting and being an apex predator and really understanding that piece is another thing that many of us need to explore.
Mm-hmm.
There are many amongst us, many folks that are apex predator in nature still, and they have not been able. They don't have a vehicle for that, and so then they express that in many different ways that may not be
Mm.
uh, positive as actually just going through the process of hunting. That's
I'm interested in that. I would be interested in exploring, because, and that's full transparency. Shooting and go to the shooting range and stuff. I've done all that, but I've never been hunting, and I want to go hunting. And it's interesting. A buddy of mine a couple of years ago, we had a long conversation. We had really deep scenario, and he said he was about to go deer hunting for the first time, and he was really going through a process internally. And he said, if I cannot go and harvest my own deer, I'm going to go vegan. And that was his whole thing. He was just like, if I'm not able to go through the full process and be connected to the process, then I'm really going to consider at least going vegetarian, if not full on vegan, because he said to me, he didn't feel like he would be worthy of eating meat if he couldn't go and harvest it himself. And I thought about that. I was like, dude, I want to go through that process. And so it's interesting that you even mentioned, the hunting club, because
yeah,
I wasn't even thinking about that in
yeah,
our conversation
yeah.
today.
So yeah, your friend makes a point. Not everybody's going to be able to kind of stand on that square,
Mm-hmm.
but I do understand the premise of feeling the and it is the almost the burden and responsibility of harvesting your own food
Mm-hmm.
and understanding why waste was not a value system of us in the past,
That's right.
right?
That's right.
It's a value system of the opulence and the the disconnection from the sacrifice,
Mm-hmm.
right? So when a thing is harvested, right? um when you're doing it yourself, it becomes a spiritual existence where you may cheer a little, but you're also thankful,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because you're thankful that you were a part of something having to expire so that you and your family could continue.
Ooh, goodness.
Okay. And 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 I'll tell you, it hurt my heart the first time I did it, because we were not used to that, and we're not sociopaths, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we most of us have not. If you have not grown up in a place where you had to be responsible for something's demise, if you've never, I mean, outside of bugs, which we kind of coil away, or fish that because they
Mm-hmm.
don't blink, it's different, but just
Mm-hmm.
something that walks around, you can identify it's a female, it's a male, it's got a family, it's got children, it's mating, it's
Mm-hmm.
on, it's a mature male. You identify these characteristics that you can then identify with,
Mm.
in this, oh, this deer would be X amount of years old as a human. This is a mature male,
Ooh, my goodness.
and then how do and then that's when we harvest.
Mm.
That understanding that we are apex predators. Humans are apex predators. Some of us are those of us that need to want to be out there and actually do that work of harvesting. But we as creatures have become more efficient so that we can decouple ourselves from those processes.
Yes.
I'm going to manage this function,
Mm-hmm.
and I can then trade for the ugly function of getting food.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
And because I've now specialized in that for centuries now,
Mm-hmm.
I don't need to go hunt.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need to deal with that ugliness because someone has my meat, and I have to work over here to get meat though. And that's how we've now trained ourselves to get away from the spiritual um, the spiritual exchange that is hunting. What that disconnection also did though is allowed us to be wasteful about everything. Ooh, yeah,
Yes.
I don't want this anymore.
Mm.
Then why is it on your plate?
Mm.
Right? Why is it on your plate, not frozen for future use? Because you if I give you some venison, okay, if I give you some venison and I see people wasting my venison, no. I will. I don't. I'm not. I'm. I take that very seriously because I was there.
Mm.
I was there. I had to drag it onto the truck. I had to do all kinds of things to get that meat here. Something had to die, and I had to go through and do that. And now you just what? You take it and you taste it and you waste it. No,
Brother,
no.
I'm gonna tell you everything literally when I'm speaking to you, everything that exudes through your conversation, through your demeanor, through everything, it all comes back to connection.
Mm.
Like everything's connection. It's all about connection. Like everything. Like I mean, just from the 5 C's of survivability to your, with identity and your relationship with the land and with your children and just life and business, and everything comes back to connection. And when we are disconnected, that power source is no longer there. And so we need to find ways. Most people try to find ways to disconnect, to leave, to separate from, but we really should strive for healthy ways to connect. And I emphasize healthy because without connection, we don't have the power source. And without connection, what's flowing through us can't be a benefit to anybody else. Without connection, we're not able to be our best selves because unless we're looking at a mirror, we can't see ourselves, right? It's what comes back from being connected to other people, that community that kind of gives us reflection back as to the impact that you're making, or you need to kind of tweak this a little bit so that you can bring more of yourself to the table. But everything that you're saying, everything that I've heard through our conversation today comes back to connection. And I hope the brothers and the sisters listening really take heed to that and go online and book an opportunity to go down to Wonderland Campground in North Georgia. Make sure first and foremost to grab a copy of Camping is for Everyone on Amazon right now. We'll make sure to have a link in the bio for the book. And dude, man, is there anything from a parting words to anything that you like to leave with us, man? Because, dude, I've been enriched by our conversation, and you and I are now going to stay connected going. Yeah. Even though you're alpha, I'll let it slide. You and I are going to stay connected going forward, and because, man, I've been so enriched from this conversation. Anything that you like to leave with the fam before we shut this thing down today?
Well, family, I'll just tell you this one: thank you, Coach. Thank you for having me here, and lastly, camping is for everyone. Wanderland is for you. So come to Wanderland and enjoy your day, and don't put a lot of thought as to what's got to be and all the other things. Just come and smell the dirt and the woods, and bring your loved ones and just figure out how you're going to get to know a little bit more about them that day and a little bit more about yourself. And you're going to sweat. You're going to go up and down hills. You're gonna decide what kind of shape your body is in. You're gonna be able to contemplate all those things at Wonderland. And we can go into a whole separate section on that, brother, because that's the physical portion of this thing is really another part of why Wonderland is so important to us. It is physically demanding. and it's intentionally physically demanding. I mean, I could have cut roads so we can go drive our Hondas right down to a campsite, but you got to hike it. You got to hike back, and you got to put that stuff on your back. And so, think about that. And I want you to. I don't want anybody to come and have a bad experience. But you will. It is a physically demanding space, and you will be hiking a little bit. But camping is for everyone, and Wonderland is for you. Come.
I love it, man. And social media tags, like how can people follow you? Like Instagram, all that stuff.
Instagram is my favorite mechanism right now because pictures are worth thousands of words.
Yes.
Wonderland GA. Wonderland GA. That's WANDERLAND GA on Instagram.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
You'll see us out there.
Yep. So Wonderland GA on Instagram. Make sure to follow. Make sure to grab a copy of Camping is for Everyone on Amazon or anywhere you get books. And also visit Wonderland Campground and book something. Come hang out with Jonathan. You know, man, you see the brother's a wealth of knowledge with regard to connection and the earth. And then I guess you also got the hunting thing in South Georgia and going through the sites and the links we can get to the hunting lodge. And I want to connect on that because at some point I want to come down and do some hunting.
Yeah.
But yeah, brother, y'all, man, I'm just going to encourage you to keep doing what you're doing, man, because you're helping us to see the power of connection, to lean into that connection and to realize how that key is what we're really designed to do. That's why we're here on this earth. We're here to connect with other people. We're not put on an island somewhere in isolation. We're here to connect, and that's connect with the earth, connect with the environment, connect with people, connect with yourself, all of that. And I appreciate you for sharing your journey and your story, my brother.
All right, brother. Well, thank you so much, Coach, and I can't wait to see you on the mountain.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, look, as always, y'all make sure to follow Black Fathers Now on all social media outlets. Share this episode out. Make sure to follow Jonathan Weston. Follow Wonderland GA on IG. Go visit Wonderland Campground. Grab the book, Camping is for Everyone, on Amazon. And until next time, y'all be blessed, well, and wise. And I'll holler at you. Peace.
Peace.
Yo, fellas, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. And always visit blackfathersnow.com, as well as follow Black Fathers Now on virtually every social media platform you can think of. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, everywhere. Just follow us and engage with us, man. Look forward to hearing from you. And I guess until next time, I'll holler at you. Peace.